Show. I'm joined once again by Kyle Klingman from Cedar Falls, Iowa. Kyle, it's the second semester of college wrestling. It's going to fly. We're going to wake up tomorrow and the NCAA championships will be upon us. How do you feel about that?
It does go by fast. It's weird when you look at the dual schedule and you get excited about it, and then all of a sudden you look at the end and it's almost over because you had all that anticipation, and then the dual meet season's almost over. So I agree, man. It flies by, and there's a little bit of sadness about that because you build for it and then it's over, but it just means we get to be part of it for another season as well.
And we roll right into freestyle, and basically, as we know, it never ends. So that's the good thing. But I'm excited about today and today's guest. Really excited to pick this man's brain and chat with him. A legend of the sport, one of the most prolific pinners of all times. Two-time NCAA champion from Clarion University. It's Wade Schalles. Wade, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, morning. Thanks for joining us. Man, there's so many different things to get into with you, from your days at Clarion to all the different types of pinning, the type of style, and you went to Tbilisi. You set all kinds of records, but looking back from at the start, right? I believe you grew up in Pennsylvania. Correct me if I'm wrong. There wasn't, the Tulsa Nationals. There wasn't this big youth movement of circuit of tournaments and nationwide systems. How old were you when you got involved in wrestling, and what was it like? Was it just basically at the local level or the state level back then?
Well, it's just local. You hit a point here that's a hot button for me on when people start and the different decades in wrestling here in America. People have a tendency to look at the present, and they don't go back 20 or 50 or 80 years. I mean, basically, I'm 70 now. I lived some of these years, and I can tell you what it was like. Today, to win multiple world championships is possible for many reasons. One of them being there's money in the sport now. I mean, our top 10 guys are probably averaging $300,000-$400,000 a year take home. And back then we were $300,000-$400 a year take home, and we were unable to wrestle as often as they were, as you alluded to earlier. In Pennsylvania, which is one of the better states in America for wrestling, we had no elementary program in the 40s, 50s, or 60s, and they just started in the 70s having an elementary program. And if you were prior to, say, 74 years, 1974-ish ballpark, don't hold me to a couple years one way or the other, there was no elementary wrestling at all. You didn't start wrestling until junior high, and then, of course, now they call it middle school. Middle school is 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, or 6th, 7th, and 8th, whereas junior high was 7, 8, 9. So we didn't start till at the earliest 7th grade back when I wrestled, when I started in the 60s. So we had no background at all in elementary or middle or wrestling in general, and I didn't start wrestling till 9th grade. And so I was behind the curve, whereas in Pennsylvania, say a Kerry Collat who came in the 80s, who's a tremendous, tremendous wrestler. He won 4 state titles, outstanding wrestler all 4 years. Interesting story about Kerry. I think it was his junior year, might have been his senior year. He was wrestling a kid in the semifinals who was really, really good, undefeated. And at the end of the first period, I think it was 11-2, and Kerry was up. And the referee flipped the coin, He said, son, pointed to Kerry's opponent, you won the toss. You have top choice, top, bottom, neutral. What would you like to do? He looked at the referee and says, I'd like to be in the other bracket if it's not too late. The other half of the bracket. And Kerry was that good. And but to say, wow, he was the best Pennsylvania ever had at the time, and certainly could be number 1, number 2. He's right up there. But there were other people that won 4 state titles and 3, in a previous decade or earlier decades where that's the best they could do, and they only had so many years of wrestling. Whereas Kerry started, in the elementary schools, so he had a pretty did a heck of a job in the elementary programs in middle school before he got to the high school. So you have those things. So for me, I coached the Pennsylvania team to the very first Fargo tournament, which wasn't Fargo at the time. it was wrestled in Iowa City. It was at University of Iowa for many, many years. I think 10 or 15 years before Fargo put a bid in and has always been there. And now we just call it Fargo. Prior to that, it was in Iowa City, and even prior to that, it was in Worland, Wyoming. The very first Fargo, or what we're calling Fargo, but sponsored by USA Wrestling, was in Worland, Wyoming in '69. And the Tulsa Nationals didn't exist. Southern Scuffle, the only thing they had back, Wilkes was going for the collegiates at Christmas time. Midlands didn't exist then either. And back when I wrestled, if you won the Wilkes, it was like winning the combination of the Midlands and the Wilkes combined. But today, when you say, well, I was a Wilkes champion, well, okay, that's nice. And when Gray Simons won 4 NAIA national championships in the 60s, NAIA was the NCAA back then. Well, now they had the NCAAs too, but the NAIA champions were every bit as good as the NCAA champions. So when Gray won 7, 3 NCAA championships, which is all he was allowed to go to because freshmen were not eligible in the 60s. So he won every national tournament he went to. And then, but the freshmen were allowed in the NAIAs by their rules, so he won 4 there. So during his college days, he won 7 NCAA championships and was outstanding wrestler, I think, at 4 of them. That was really special. But you didn't put him in the top 20 or top 100 on your best wrestlers list, which is a travesty. Gray Simons was, my opinion, I think he was certainly in the top 20 and arguably in the top 10, but it didn't even make it because they were looking to the Worlds and Olympics, and Gray Simons never lost a match at the Olympics. He was undefeated and took 5th. Well, how did that happen, says Mark. Well, how that happened was easy. Back then they had what they called black mark system. If you pinned your opponent got 4 black marks. If you pinned, you got 0. If you decisioned him, he gets 3 for losing by decision, and you get 1 for not pinning him. And a tie, 2-2. So every match you got black points or didn't get them, and you accumulated them over the course of the tournament. And if you were, and once you hit 6 black marks, you were out of the tournament. Gray won all his matches, but none of them by pin, and was out of the tournament and took 5th. And he beat the gold and the bronze in the process of coming up, but didn't get a medal. So when you don't take those things into consideration, like say with Gray's performance in the top 100, I know that's something. But you have to know as you're trying to figure out what's going on earlier in the history of wrestling in America. Rules have changed, attitudes have changed. When I wrestled in the 70s, I had a daughter when I was a high school senior. And so in college, I had to work for child support. And after that too. So when I wrestled in the 70s and working for international, whatever, I worked 5 days a week and then showed up at a tournament on Saturday and wrestled. Today, these athletes are, with being paid $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, they're working out, 6 days a week, with world and Olympic medalists all around them at the different RTCs, which RTC, what the hell was that? That was something that only took place after the 2000s. So it's the landscape is completely different. I'll stop talking and maybe I created 1 or 2 questions, you have from all that.
No, that's great. I love this. You talked about the black mark system, and basically it seemed like they were encouraging everyone to work for a fall. You start wrestling at 9th grade. They probably teach you a double leg and a half and a cradle and a switcher. The basic things. How did your style take form? Because it obviously wasn't traditional, right? How did you develop your wrestling style?
Easy answer to that, but I'll use an analogy here somewhere along the line. My style is, if you would see, if you watch Bo Nickel today, you're watching Wade Schalles. He could be my son. Now we never knew each other and so on, but to watch it, I know everything he's going to do before he does it. I can see it coming. And a lot is, but when I did crazy things like that, which are today basic, but back, let's use the Avante. There was a automobile in the early 70s put out by, that was one Rambler, I believe, American Motors. Anyhow, the Avante was so far ahead in their design, it would be normal in today's, if you saw it on the street today. But back then it was so different, radical. It was, whoa. So But today it's nothing if you saw it driving on the street. Matter of fact, it would not stand out in today's style. Whereas my wrestling today would not stand out in a lot of the kids what they're doing, funk wrestling. When I did the funk wrestling, and I guess a lot of people call me the father of funk, it was garbage wrestling. He'll never win big ones matches. That's all garbage wrestling. You can't, flip flop and dive under and spladle and things like that. That's garbage. It won't work on good kids. And then after about 4 or 5, 10 years of all this garbage wrestling, which I got tired of people saying, he's just a garbage wrestler. Well, I had a couple words in my mind that I can't say here about them. But anyhow, now today, it's the acceptable norm. Back then, it was a tight waist, pick up an ankle when you're on top, hang on for 2 minutes, because stalling was almost non-existent back then. It was way boring. And how did I get to this style? In high school, I had 3 coaches, wonderful men, loving, caring, give you their shirt off their back, but they didn't know wrestling. So I didn't have coaching. And as a result, I made it up. I mean, they said you have to pick up an ankle and ride. I said, well, I was a skinny kid in Pennsylvania. I wasn't built like Cole Adder or Jordan Burroughs. No way. So they pick up an ankle. I went, well, his thighs are this big and my arm is this big. Why am I doing that? That doesn't seem like it's an even fair battle here. If I can get up on his head where his neck is small and skinnier and attack his arms and lay on his head and attack his thinking because I'm laying on his head and his breathing because I'm on his throat and on his head, I think that'll work a lot better than me back there tackling this butt and thighs and massive strength that he has. That made sense to me. They go, no, you got to get back there. I go, why? Coach, I'm not trying to be smart here or smart aleck. He go, why? It doesn't make sense. I want to get up on his head and cut off his breathing and his thought process. So my style developed from that. Now I had a lot of people on their backs, absolutely, but I was on my back a few times in the wrestling rooms trying to. Well, let's see if this works. And I'd flip under. Shit, I'm bridging. That's not going to work. Back to the drawing board. Wile E. Coyote, and I'd go back and adapt it. And I have a very, very creative mind, and I'm sure Kyle knows that. We've talked on many occasions about what's wrong with wrestling today. How can we improve it? We have so many problems in wrestling. You don't have a long enough day on your podcast to cover some of the problems we have, but I have solutions to all of them, and I think they're very, very simple and easy solutions, but no one's listening, and such is life in the big city. Did I answer your question? when I started?
Your style, yes, because you didn't want to attack the ankle and the big thigh. You wanted to attack the head and the neck and all that. It's basically what you said. And so I want to get to the problems that you speak of. But at first, I'm a thinker. I'm very creative, you said. And sometimes you find yourself on your back in the room, like, shit, that didn't work. Okay, throw it out. Was most of these things figured out in the room? Would you go home and at night and think, close your eyes and visualize what you did or didn't do that day and how it worked, or how much was this stuff on your mind?
It was on my mind a lot. You were right. I would go home, I'd lay in bed and I go, okay, now if you know the body and you know angles, I mean, it's really not that difficult. At least I don't think so, but boy, coaches back then were not thinking about angles and, the arm, if you watch any of my instructional videotapes that I have out there, which are the best-selling videotapes on the market, I've sold more than anybody else, including Gabe and G Mills and so on. I put the starting circle, I put a clock on it. I put the numbers 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 around the circle. And once you get in referee's position, if you're going to chop the left arm, chop tight waist to knock him down at the referee's position, you take him at 10:30. You don't chop him forward because he has 4 appendages, 2 arms, 2 legs. His right arm is responsible for between 12 and 3 o'clock. Anything that happens during those 3 hours, 12 to 3, my right arm is responsible. My right leg's 3 to 6, 6 to 9, left hand 9 to 12. So when I'm being chopped down, if you chop my left arm, if you chop me forward, I can put at 12 o'clock, my left arm is my 12 o'clock arm, you think you take me down or you knock me down to my belly. No, because my right hand is at 12 o'clock too. So you didn't get rid of my right arm, so you're not getting me at 12. If you chop me over at 3 o'clock, you didn't stop my left leg from going out there at 9 o'clock. So you can't take me at 9. You've got to take me halfway between 9 and 12 at 10:30. And, so depending on what you're picking up and which way you're driving a guy, where you have a one-on-one and a half Nelson, if you have a half with your left hand, you want to drive at 1:30. If you take him out, it's, people try to run him in a circle or try to roll him over with a half Nelson. Roll him over. You got a half. Roll him over. You hear that word all the time, roll him over. But his right leg goes out at 3 o'clock and says, screw you. You're not rolling me over. So if you try to circle and roll him and take him in a circle and run him over, it doesn't work. You got to take him out at 1:30 because his left hand's still free. He can put his left hand at 12. He can get his right leg out at 3. So you have to take him at 1:30. Once you figure that out, and so I would analyze all positions, knowing the body, which way the joints move, which way they don't. Okay, now, and a lot of times the way the coach said, no, you don't go that way. I go, why? Again, just please, I'll, whatever you tell me, I'll do, coach, but tell me why. And they couldn't tell me why, so I figured, they're wrong. So I go back to my style and learn how to roll. And it's a matter of rolling around and catching guys. I mean, I did that a lot, and I can move up and down weight classes. I went from 150 in college to 190, and I wrestled everywhere in between, but I only weighed 65 naturally. And I could handle bigger guys. I mean, John Peterson was an amazing individual, but in 76 in the Olympic trials or the training camp afterwards, I would go up and wrestle 80s a lot because I didn't want to roll around with Desick or Carl Adams. They were competition. I wasn't going to roll with them. And after about 3 days of rolling with John, the coaches pulled me off of him and said, wait, we got to have him win the Olympic gold here. He's crying when he goes home every night. I mean, I would beat him by 20 points every day, in every match, just because he couldn't handle my style. You could see smoke coming out of his ears, from short circuiting. But he's a great wrestler. And it's not that I'm greater than him. It was just my style and his style. There was a conflict there. And I conflicted with a lot of people. Desick had my number. He was my kryptonite. That son of a gun. He knew how to, Stan never wrestled. If you wrestled me, you were in trouble. If you slowed the pace down and did very little, it would frustrate me. I'd want to, let's go. Come on, let's start rolling around. And I opened myself up to shots and things like that every now and then. And when I fell behind on the first takedown, Stan would shut down, keep good position, and I'd had a hell of a time getting in on him, and because he wouldn't wrestle me. And that was smart on his part. I mean, Stan was not the most gifted athlete, but he was probably the smartest I've ever wrestled. And he took that in life and became vice president of Scherz and Lehman, and what he did with president of USA Wrestling. He's an amazing individual. He's very intelligent, and he's above average certainly as an athlete. And he's strong as heck, but he gave me problems. So when I had to wrestle people, other people would open up on me, and that was a mistake. You didn't open up on me and survive. So I think I got off topic again, but whatever.
Yeah, well, we go any which way with stuff. You mentioned Bo Nickel. I also think of like a Ben Askren or these guys that would just roll around and seemingly from watching, it's like it's easy. These guys make pinning Division I wrestlers look easy. Did it feel easy to you? Did you feel like a step ahead of everyone?
Yeah, pinning is much easier than learning a takedown. I mean, it's again, when you know what you're doing, when I lay a kid on his back and when I'm at a clinic, I'll have Johnny laying here and I'll say, okay, guys, now pay attention here. What position should I get into pinning? Hands will go up. I go, okay, Bob, what do you think? Chest on chest, coach? No. Today, we're still teaching coach chest on chest. So I say, no, you're wrong. It's not, that's someone told, it's a different story. Someone said that a long time ago and everybody believes it. So I'd lay on my back or have him lay on his back. I put my hand on his tummy. I'd say, if you lay here, that's good. Then I put my hand on his chest. That's better. Then I put my hand on his throat. That's best. Then I put my hand over his mouth and nose. That's kill. Good, better, best, kill. So where do you want to lay? And all of them together go, kill, kill, kill. And they all laugh. And we have fun. And I have to explain it to the parents. We're not trying to kill the guy, but it's.
Right.
I'm having the kid understand good, better, best, kill. And you're going to land on his face. So pinning is laying on a guy's face. And on a cradle's a guy will take a cradle, take him over, and fall off of his face, lay on his side, holding the arms and the legs together. And that works really well, but not against your, what I call 8s, 9s, and 10s. On scale 1 to 10, 10 being your NCAA champion, Olympic champion, or state champion in high school. Okay, when you have the 8s, 9s, and 10s, you better damn well lay on his face. When he can't see, can't hear, and can't breathe, his shoulders go down. Okay, so it's a matter of short-circuiting his thought process. If he's thinking about where his next breath is coming from, he's not thinking about the 11th commandment, thou shalt not be pinned. He's thinking about survival. Now, I've never had anyone pass out on me. I didn't cut the wind off, so they just thought they were going to die. Were they going to die? No. It's that middle, when they can't breathe, can't see, because you're laying on their face. So once you get some of these principles of drive at 1:30 versus or 10:30, on your half Nelsons, your cradles, and how do you reposition yourself when you get on top? It is pretty easy. Pinning, I find, is much easier than a high crotch. High crotch, you got to work like hell. Set him up, bang him, get in there. He's cross-facing you. It's tough learning the takedowns and, the doubles and that. Some of us aren't as blessed as Jordan is with the lightning speed on a double leg.
Yeah.
But once you analyze what you have in a kid, I was at one of the world trials, and David Taylor had to wrestle. He was at 63 and had to wrestle, Burroughs, and being a Pennsylvanian and in Penn State, and so I went over to him. I said, "Hey, you got Jordan coming up?" He goes, "Yeah, coach." I said, "How are you going to handle the double leg?" "Well, Coach Sanderson and I have a plan." I said, "Well, I have a feeling it probably won't work, but I can tell you how to beat him if you want, but I'm not trying to interfere with what Kale's showing you." He said, "Well, what is it?" I said, "Well, you have to turn your side to Kale or to Jordan. If you ever go square stance with him, just in one motion, just as you're moving around, just for a second, you get into square stance, you're going to be sitting on your ass. He's going to blow you off, come through with one of those doubles. You have two choices: either drop to a knee when you see him setting up a shot, drop, and that's exactly what Kyle Dake's doing. When the 2 times they wrestled for the Olympics, Jordan didn't get one takedown, not one. Every time he was ready to shoot, Kyle would see it's coming, drop down to a knee. And he'd stop and he'd back off, move again, and he gets ready, and Kyle would drop down again. He never got a shot off, more or less took him down. And that's how you beat a Jordan Burroughs. You just, you don't let him take the shot. Or I said, now this is what I would do versus dropping down. It worked for Kyle Dake. You could do one of either. Or you turn your side to him. You give him a single leg, or you give him a high crotch on your best leg. Turn your side to him, 190 degrees to him, so he'll never get a double on you. Now, you're giving him a single or high crotch, but that's okay. See, Jordan has gotten so many, Jordan is fabulous. I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to tear Jordan down in any of these conversations. I'm trying to see how my technical mind works. When you turn your side, you're giving him a single leg. Yeah. But if you ask Jordan, what's your best takedown? The double. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you? 18. Yep, you're right. Okay, how good are you at single leg on the right leg? 6. How good are you at a high crotch on my right leg? 7. Why? Because he never practices it. He never practices single or high crotch because the doubles always work. He just finds a different way of perfecting different setups, different motions to get into his double leg. If you say if you walk out and say, Jordan, you can't do a double leg in this match at all, he's not going to place in any world championship because that's his go-to move. I mean, he has other skills, but you take away that double. Ooh, I mean, he's still a fierce competitor, but you can take away a gun and a pistol from this military guy and say you have to fight with a knife, and I got a gun, I'm going to win. So I saw you go, I don't know about Jordan, but you turn your side to him, give him a single, give him a high crotch. And now I'm saying, you take my single, you take my high crotch. That's your 6 or 7 best take, or on a scale of 10. That's my 10 defensively. You touch my leg, you're on your back. My right leg was destructive because I spent most of my time, and I never got out of that lead leg right lead leg. If someone would ever get to my back leg, I was in trouble. But boy, I had that thing hid. It was behind me, and I always led with my right. It was so obvious. I gave it to you. Take it, please. Lee Kemp he'd pick my leg up, and I hop into him. He'd let go of my leg and push me away, or I'd pick my leg up and give it to him, and he'd push it down because he didn't want it. You don't want my right leg, but too many people said, "Well, I can do that." Okay, fine, grab it. Good luck. Okay, so that was my style. If Jordan was here talking to you, he'd say, "Well, the way how you beat Wade is when he leaves that leg, you've got to spend your whole match pulling him around. So all of a sudden, just for a second, you got him into a square stance or a left leg lead. Then you better hit in as soon as you get there, because that leg is only going to be there for half a second. He's going to pull it back around. So to beat Wade, stay the hell off his right leg. You're going to beat Jordan, don't square up with him, because you square up with Jordan, boom, you're sitting on your butt 10 feet from where you were. He was fabulous at it. He still is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've opened up some more questions for you.
Yeah, well, I'm curious. You said there's so many things wrong with wrestling, and I don't know if you mean organizationally and structurally or technically on the mat, like chest to chest, for example, right? Everybody yelling that, like, I don't know. Give me one of these problems and a solution you have.
Well, we have to get, and we'll never do this. It won't happen. The egos of the coaches won't happen. We've got to get 5, 8, 10 of our best thinkers in a room. And I don't think necessarily that would be Kale or John Smith or Brands. And I'm not saying they're not great thinkers. They are. But they've got blinders on to where the thing is today. You need to bring in, like a John Bowles or Bob Bowlesby, the head commissioner of the Big 12. Bob was the athletic director at Iowa when Gable was there. And he knows if we have somebody that's really high up in the NCAA that has our back, it would be Bob Bowlesby. And you get Bob in the meeting too, and you sit down and you put on the chalkboard the 20 problems wrestling has. Okay, whatever you say, we'll put it up there. And then now let's number them. What's the number 1 problem? What's the number 12 problem? What's the number 19 problem? And then say, okay, guys, we're going to attack number 1 first. When we beat that one, we're going to go to number 2. And everybody in the room is going to, they might have said, I believe number 8 is the problem. Okay, well, it's number 8 now. Everyone voted it's number 8, so we're not going to do that. So get it out of your head. We have to attack number 1. And you organize what your problems are. And no matter what I say when I talk to people, they'll come up with, well, we got to do something about stalling. We got to have a push-out point. That would be the worst thing we'd ever do in wrestling. It's terrible in freestyle wrestling. You want to have a push-out point, you just kiss takedowns goodbye, because you don't have to commit. You're not in on a shot. You're not getting your face beat up. You're not getting taken down. You just push a guy out. So what you're going to have is the short little warthogs, with a lot of power. They're going to win the Olympics, and the tall, skinny kids, the middle-sized kids, they're out of the game because they get pushed out of bounds all the time. But anyhow, what our problems are is the number 1 problem in wrestling is we have no fans. We have no fans. We have 20,000 people to go to the NCAAs, but that's all we have. It's the same 20 every year. We all get together, we have a drink, we cheer, and go for Penn State, Iowa, yeah, Oklahoma State, go get them, and so on. But that doesn't bring fans in. And when I say change some of the rules, people will fight me over. I don't care what their opinion is. The people that we have, I don't care about. I care about the 3 million people we don't have that don't come to wrestling. Because if you don't have people you don't have butts in the stands, you don't have revenue. And without revenue, the athletic directors don't give a shit about you. You're just an annoyance to them. And that's why wrestling has lost so many programs, because wrestlers will do it, same thing football players will do. Socially, academically, athletically, they're dumb as hell, typically, because we have the worst academic performance at the NCAA level of all the male sports. Okay, so there are some tremendous gifted academic people that we have in wrestling, but as a rule, we don't. So we pull down the national or the athletic department average academically. So when the athletic director goes to a booster club meeting, he can talk about, well, the athletes have a 0.32 average higher than the average academic points of the general student body. He has to be able to brag about what they're doing. And if wrestling is pulling down their academic average and pulling their football players even lower, which they can't put up with because football's king and basketball's queen, and everybody else is just given money. We have to have power, and we always go out and try to fundraise and have people donate money. And isn't that nice? That's icing on the cake, but you have to have the cake, and the cake is fans in the stands. How do we get them there? Well, every year we add 3 pages to the rules book. Oh, that's really good. People watch Jeopardy because they're going to get at least 30% of the questions right on Jeopardy, and they like seeing it. And if Jeopardy asks questions that nobody can answer at home, they wouldn't watch the TV show anymore because you're making them feel stupid. And that's not a really good thing to do. In wrestling, we make our fans look stupid. You get a new guy coming in, a new lady, family sitting there, and the referee's doing this and holding their hand when they're on their feet, behind standing. What the hell does that mean? Well, stop. That's a new indication for stopping riding time. Well, what's that about? You spend most of your time trying to explain to them and making them feel stupid that they can't figure out what the hell's going on with all the rules. And every time they have a problem with a new rule or a new rule that they put in another rule to counteract the badness of the rule they put in. And then they have another rule on top of that. And the book gets thicker and more people get confused. And you cannot confuse your fan base and have them come back and go, gee, I can't wait to do this again. This is fun to watch this. No. Now, are there exciting bouts? Yeah. But they're the Iowa Penn State bouts. If Iowa and Penn State were not, if they were number 23 and 25 nationally, no one would go to that dual meet. People will always show up for the number 1 and number 2. It could be Central Michigan and Clarion, 1-2. That place, they pack the gym then because it's number 1, number 2. So you can't look at, look at what Penn State's doing. You do know, and everybody, you'll nod your head. There's not one program in America that's in the black. Penn State loses money. Iowa loses money every year. And if they're losing money, you can bet your sweet bippy that Ohio State is. Ohio State's averaging, I think, $2,400 a match. You put them in their arena, it's quite empty. So when you're sitting there as a new fan, you look around and you say, wow, where's everybody else? Am I the stupid one or are they the smart ones? Because it's half. If you're going to have 2 people show up to watch a dual meet, you damn well better find a gym that seats 1. So now it's standing room only. That's what you have to have. We wrestle in these big coliseums and arenas, and it's half empty or 70% empty. So is it an important sport? Hell no. And the athletic directors are dropping the sport left and right. Now we're getting some of the D2s and D3s starting now because the economy is so bad, and people aren't going to college and their chairs are empty. So presidents are wanting more kids to show up. Their wrestling programs make sense at the D2, D3, but we haven't had a D1 program start in America in this decade. In this century, not one serious D1 program. If Villanova would start, they're D1, but that's not a serious D1 program. LSU is a serious D1 program. Okay, Texas is a serious D1 program. Notre Dame, but we don't have them. We can't get them started. Okay, so now how are you going to do that? You have to create excitement. The rules that are designed today are designed to slow down, to have no action, to play the edge, down block on a shot, keep the referee off your back, and take half shots so that someone thinks that was going on. And, you watch a match, third period, it's 8-2. What are people doing? They're talking about where they're going to what bar after the match, or they're going to the bathroom, or they're going to get a Coke, because the match is over. It's 8-2, and nothing's happening in the third period. One guy's happy he's up by 8, or up by 6 points, and the other guy says, I can't win, so the hell with it. Right now, it's only a 3-point loss for my team, so I'm not going to try anything. I've already screwed up. So the action, disappears, for 2 minutes out of the 6. That hurts us. We have to have continual action. Now, scoring, you might say, we want scoring. Well, yeah, we want scoring, but we want action. In soccer, there's very little scoring, but there's a hell of a lot of action. You got 22 guys sprinting every minute, every hour, every second up and down the field, and fans love it. So scoring and action are different. And now a lot of times scoring occurs out of action, but we need to have action. And you have to incentivize, not penalize, what we're doing in America today. Now, if I was king for a day, I have one rule I'd change. And after that, if it works, you come back and say, you're a genius, Wade. What else would you do? But by far, a point scored is a point earned. Simple to say, simple to understand. It does not affect any wrestler. The wrestlers that are winning now are going to win again tomorrow. It has nothing to do with them whatsoever. So I'm not affecting the athlete, but I am affecting the coaches. So if I win 8-2, my team gets 8 points, your team gets 2 points. Ta-da! That's the team score, 8-2 at the end of the. It's not 3-0 because you won by decision or tech. It's 8-2. If you win 15-1, 15 points, 1 point. That's simple to understand. That is the exact way every other sport in America is. Well, that's not fair, says some big D1 coach, because we could lose 2 matches out of the 10 and lose the dual meet. That's not fair. Get over it, coach. It's the way you get one 6'11" high school basketball player playing again with 4 average basketball players or below average basketball players. They're in the state finals. One guy is scoring all the points and doing all the work. You get one really good quarterback or running back in high school, and they're in the state playoffs. They can have an average or below average team, but that star running back will put them there. So you get 2 really good kids, stars. They're gonna dictate the outcome of the match. But that's not fair. It's the way every other sport is. Why isn't that so in wrestling? So now the dual meets will be 122 to 112. I mean, there'll be higher score. But what the hell's the difference? The difference is the coaching. The coaches are so scared that they could lose 2 bouts out of 10 in college and lose the dual meet. What are they doing every second of every minute of every hour in the wrestling room? Take him down, get on his side, put him on, God damn it, get him on his back again. Pin him, 1,000, Cradle. They're going crazy within the wrestling room pushing this agenda. But right now they're pushing the other. Hey, be smart, play that edge, down block. No, take a half shot. This is how you keep the referee off your ass. You do this. They teach the slow down approach. Now there's some crazies out there like Gene Mills and Askren, you mentioned, and myself, that'll screw that. We're going to start flipping and flopping, and pulling in fans. When I wrestled, the gym was full at Clarion. Every time we wrestled, it was packed. Why? Because of me. Okay, not because Donnie Roan, who was NCAA champ, or Bill Simpson, who was NCAA champ, my teammates, although they were outstanding people. Roney was one of the best coaches in high school level ever. His high school team won a couple national championships, beat St. Ed's and the rest of them. But they were single leg, take them down, hold on to them. Me, I'm going crazy. The fans would show up for it. If you can get 10 Schalles in dual meet, ticket sales, the price of tickets would be $50 for to get in, and it would still be full. Now you have power with the athletic director. The athletic director can't afford to get rid of you. Okay, but you have to get in the black, not be the red. Right now, we're not only in the red, but we're the stupidest sport, and we're the ones that have a tendency to clean out a bar Friday night after a dual meet when someone pushes a 125-pounder off a bar stool, and the little guy says, next thing you know, he's Monday morning, he's in with the dean's office for the fight, and the wrestling coach has to go up there and defend him, and the athletic director's going, it's okay if a football player gets in trouble because they'll bury it, because it's football. But they don't bury it when it's wrestling. And when we become more of a problem, we are an asset. Hey, coach, I'm sorry. The money's just killing us. The Title IX's, chewing on our budget. We have to discontinue the sport. Coach, is there anything I can do to help you? I'm really sorry. They almost have crocodile tears, and they help you come out of the office and they close the door and go, I got rid of that damn sport, because the sport has no benefit. When I was coaching at Clemson, every day or 2 days a week, I would give them big black garbage bags. I'd have stenciled on the side of the black garbage bags, Clemson Wrestling, big tiger paw, and I'd make the kids go out and run, as all coaches do. I'd have them run down through the center of town, and they had to pick up every piece of garbage, every cigarette butt as they ran through the center of town, and then they dumped it in a trash can at the other end of town and then finished their run. Every owner of every business downtown would go, who's that? They couldn't miss the name on the bag. So we had goodwill that, the community was supporting our wrestling program. So they would have a hard time getting rid of that. That was just a little trick of the trade. I think it did some good, especially in a Southern school when wrestling was not big in the South. And there was a reason why they might want to get rid of wrestling. But a point earned is a point scored is huge for wrestling. But, you have to take risk on it. Now, the downside, someone's going to say, one of the two of you, well, what about the pin? Now, don't get locked in. I'm going to say 10 points. It could be 2 points. It could be 8 points. It could be 15 points. I don't care. I'm going to say 10 here just for the conversation. A pin is 10 points plus whatever you got. You're winning 8-2. You pin the guy, you get 18. He gets 2. You don't take away from the producer. The guy who scored 8 points out there and he lost 10-8, he gets those 8 points. So when his team wins 127 to 125, he can say, my 5 points made the difference of the win. So his teammates are cheering him on to get an escape with 10 seconds to go. That's one more point that's going on the board for their team. Whereas right now, they just lay their head down and say, screw it. I don't want to do anything. So there's no action. There's no reason. We're not incentivizing action. We're decentivizing action by all the rules and in the stalling. So that alone would make all the difference in the world in wrestling. And if you pinned, what if someone said, well, wait, what if someone was up 15-3 and he unfortunately slipped and got headlocked and got pinned? What happens then? Well, he had 3 points. He got pinned. He got 10. He gets 13. Well, the other guy gets 15. Yeah. So the pin determines who gets their hand raised. The kid who pinned still get his hand raised. He won. He goes in his W column, for seeding and so on. But he didn't produce at all during that match. He only produced 3 points. The other guy produced 15. Why are you taking it away? Right now, our system is communistic, socialistic. You win by 1 point, you get 3 team points. But you only scored 1-0. But you get 3. Win 7-2, you get 3 points. But I scored 7. Why am I risking trying to go from 3-1 score to 5-1 or 7-1? Why am I taking those risks? That's stupid. And in today's wrestling, the coaches are right. That's stupid. You don't have to take that risk. You've already won the match. So, they teach the slowdown approach. And the fans, if you don't think they see it, look in the fans. NC State, they're doing wonderful. What a great coaching job they're doing down there in the program they got going. 2,000 maybe on average for a dual meet. 2,000. High schools are getting that. It's our college. It should be like Michigan, Ohio State football in the big house. It should be 110,000 people. That's crazy, I know. But, in a gym, there's no reason, half the schools in America can't be like Penn State and Iowa. Oklahoma State numbers are terrible. I'll stop for a minute.
No, that's all right. Obviously it's a very radical idea. I haven't had a whole lot of time to process it. On the surface, it makes sense because if you're up 8-2, I guess 8-2 is another great example because 2 more points to get you a major. But if you're up by 5 points, what's the incentive for either guy to press on instead of just trying to win?
This way, there's no major, there's no tech. Well, you can have a tech. If you have a 15-point, keep the tech in. If it's a 15-point, you might have a Gene Mills that'll run up a 33-10 match, because he's capable of that. So am I. I'm not sure. You could argue that that's just as as capitalistic as your idea is radical, Wade. But it's just we teach the slowdown approach, and it works for winning. Because when you slow a guy down, you can win on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being a guy's an 8 and he's wrestling a 6. The 6th guy in today's system can win that match because he can frustrate the 8, keep him down, just get one stalling call because maybe it might have been a hometown crowd stalling call, whatever, it doesn't matter. He can win in this point scored system. There's going to be so many points scored that the best wrestler is always going to get their hand raised, and that goes against what the coaches wanted to see happen. Once this goes in, elementary, middle school, high school coach, college coach will all scream the same thing. So we are indoctrinating our athletes today to wrestling a lot more and getting the points built up. Someone said, well, we'll try it for 1 year, Wade. We don't like it, but we're going to try it. Don't try it. It won't change anything in the first year. It will change a little bit, but not much, because the kids have not been trained to get after it, since 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. They're going to go back and wrestle the same style they always have. But within 2, 3, 4 years, as the high school coaches are screaming it, they get to college and they're screaming it, and they have 4, 5, 6 years of experience of doing this, of opening up and cutting loose. You're going to see a tremendous uptick in bringing money in. When you bring money in, you can still be the stupidest program academically at the school. You can still have fights in the bar. That may not change in wrestling. That's maybe sometimes the nature of some of our student athletes. But if you have the money over here, we're not doing anything the football doesn't do socially, academically, but they have money coming in, so they get to stay. You have no power over here politically. Our programs get to be dropped because there's nothing coming in. So it has to be money, and you can't go out and raise it. And the RTCs are causing more problems than you can ever imagine on a college campus. You can't have RTCs on college campuses. They're wonderful, wonderful for our international capabilities. What we're doing now, we're competing with the Russians and the Iranians now, where we never did before, because of the RTC. So it's really, really, really good for USA Wrestling, but it's really, really bad for NCAA Wrestling. Why USA Wrestling is they get all the RTCs to self-fund themselves. Penn State has $5 million in the bank for their RTC, and they churn a lot of money, and they're paying their athletes. Good for them. I'm all for that. But the athletic director at Penn State goes, wait a minute. I've asked you for 25 years to help me out, fundraise for your program, and you said you've tried all your best, coach, and you couldn't do it. It's just money. There's no money in wrestling. There's a lot of money in wrestling. You can see it in the RTCs. And now all of a sudden the RTC gets started, and the coach goes out and raises it at ODU. That was one of the reasons why that program got dropped. Stevie did a great job, Martin, of going out and raising $300,000 for the RTC program. And all of a sudden the AD goes, hey, for 20 years or 10 years, however long he's there, I've asked you to help me, and you couldn't help me. And all of a sudden an RTC shows up, you raised $300,000. So basically you've been lying to me for the last 10 years that you've been here, and I've been struggling, and I'm not really happy with that. And that $300,000 doesn't come into my coffers as the athletic director. It goes into your pocket, not your personal pocket, but your pocket that's sent here. So it hurts. And USA Wrestling gets all the benefit of all this. They get to use the facilities at all these colleges for free, no rent being paid by USA Wrestling to the colleges to use their facilities, so that they can raise money and they can have a program. So why USA Wrestling is sitting back going, this is great. I get all these benefits. I don't have to put any money out for that. And they're paying the coaches at the RTCs. You couldn't ask for a better situation. And more power too, Rich, at USA Wrestling. It's wonderful for them. But it's not so wonderful at the college level, because now the rich get richer. Penn State, with the number of kids they have in that room, or at Oklahoma or Ohio State, do you think a Clarion can keep up? No way. The Central Michigans, the Clarions, the Chowan, the Appalachian States, Boise State. Oops, that's not even around anymore. These programs get dropped because they cannot compete. D1s, there's so many schools that are D1 that have no business whatsoever being at D1, because they can't compete. Penn State's, the intramural champions at Penn State could beat Bloomsburg's varsity. And so Bloomsburg is not a D1 program. And I'm not taking a shot at D1. I can name 50 other D1 programs that are same boat. They have no business being there. Now the AD goes, why am I killing myself to raise $300,000, $500,000 a year for you, to have you get shut out 5-year matches during the year? Penn State, Ohio State, Pittsburgh, Lehigh. You wrestle them and they all shut you out. That's throwing good money, after bad. We can't do this. And it's so much easier for the athletic director to drop wrestling than it is to say, no, you're going down to D2. If the athletic director can say that, no, you're going D2. What? So the next 10 years, every alumni member, if they said that at Clarion, every alumni member, including me, would be bitching at the president and the athletic director for dropping him down to D2. So he would catch crap for 10 straight years if he just says, this ain't working. I'm just going to drop the sport. And he drops the sport. He catches hell for 1 year. And then we go away because we forget about it. There's no one at Slippery Rock writing the president or athletic director of Slippery Rock still bitching about them dropping the program. It's easier to drop the program than it is to downgrade it. So the AD says, I'm going to take the path of least resistance. Because wrestling people, they're fanatical. When they're done dirty, they remember that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I've been jumping all over the map here. I'm sure there's, again, come on, Kyle, jump in here.
I like cumulative scoring, though. I'm a big fan of that, always have been. So I right on point. That's where I think the direction needs to go, no doubt.
Really? You think
But
so,
in
Kyle?
order to make those changes, there's only one way it's going to happen. Well, it's two ways. You either let the sport die where there's nobody left, and where there's nobody left and build the program back up, or the coaches are not going to make these changes. They like it the way it is. Any change threatens their position. Cale Sanderson and Tommy Brands like the number one, number two position. Any change in any rule, there's a chance that they may not be one or two, so they're not voting for it. Okay, every coach looks at the negative and say, "Oh, I'm number 12 now in the nation, roughly, give or take on any given year. So, if I put this in, I may get down to 20." There's a movement. Some people want to see freestyle go into college. Hell, the collegiate, folk style. Let's get rid of it and go freestyle. That's what the Olympics are. Well, that will never happen because the people who vote, most of them have not wrestled freestyle. So they know if we go to freestyle, they don't know what the hell they're doing. So they know they're going to move from number 22 to number 45 real quick. And they're not going to let that happen. So the majority of coaches, not the power of the coaches, because, you can say Cale certainly has a lot more power, than the coach at Clarion. I don't see that happening. But the only way something like this point is going to go is you have to go to the Bob Bowlesby and say, Bob, this is what we need to do. If you disagree, thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate your time. Thank you for all you've done for wrestling, and leave. But if he says, that makes a lot of sense, then Bob, I need you to go to the NCAA and oversee the rules committee and have the NCAA, the big boys, tell the rules committee, this is what we're doing. Have a nice day. And they don't have a vote on it. Because what you want to do is say, Bob, we need to do this for 5 years or at least 3 years. Have a pilot program, and we're going to do this. Because if we can make this change and get more people showing up and have it go from red ink to black ink on the bottom line for the programs, which today with this likeness thing that came out, that's going to change everything in wrestling. This likeness, oh my God, that's another whole story. Wrestling has to get in the black, or they're going to disappear. And Bowlesby has to say, if we can do it and make a pilot program for wrestling, if we can do it in wrestling, we can do the same type of thing in track and field, in tennis, and swimming and diving. And we can try to get all of our programs in the black versus red, and then everybody wins. Now, whether that would ever happen or not, I don't know, because, Cale will never vote for that because he's going to say, you mean if you pin 2 of my kids and I win 8 matches, I'm going to lose the duel? No, I'm not voting for that. Because then a Clarion with, Bill Simpson and Wade Schalles pinned 2 of their kids, could win the dual meet. But I've looked back probably 10 years and all the dual meets we've had in 10 years, and it's never been that I've saw anywhere on the sheets where a team that had 2 pins would have won the dual meet. Because the other team has a couple pins and a couple higher scoring matches too. It's not going to happen, although it would scare the coaches. I get it, but. Yeah. So anyhow,
yeah, there's a lot of really interesting ideas coming out. So, if you were in the room with Bob Bowlesby and you put the 20 biggest problems in wrestling, is your number one the point earned as a point that the cumulative?
Clearly, it's clearly number one. It makes the biggest change in wrestling. It's one change, and it changes everything. Because you drop a socialistic system and you pick up a capitalistic system, and we know we have our problems in America between the Dems and the Republicans and this and that, but we still have the largest economy in the world, and we're doing capitalism is messy, but it works. And capitalism in sports, in wrestling, is messy, but it works, and it will work. There's the push out. Well, yeah, that's there's a lot of people that's their number one thing. Okay, how does that improve wrestling? It takes away takedowns and adds the push out, so you have less action. Well, these guys are really equal. They're really hard to bullshit. I'm not buying that these guys are so equal you can't pin them, you can't put them on their back. They're not trying to. You cut a guy loose, there's going to be points scored, and a lot of them. And then when you let that happen, there's going to be a lot more. I don't want to say fisticuffs, but you're going to have a lot more of the Iowa boom, boom. I'm trying to get. It's going to be more of a fight with technical skills, but there's going to be a fight more to take place, and because the coach is screaming, his teammates are screaming. When he's down by 8 points and there's 20 seconds, oh, get on the bottom, come on, Jimmy, come on, get your feet, you need one, come on, you need one. Everybody in the place is screaming, get one. Now he has a reason to get up. Right now he has no reason to get up, and the fans are seeing that and they're yawning and now you can say at the NCAAs, how many great matches do you see? 5, 8, 10, maybe out of 400. I mean, there are some great matches at the NCAAs, truly some great ones, some unexpected great ones. But there's a hell of a lot more sleepers, than last year at the NCAAs. 7 of the 10 bouts, 0 takedowns in the first period. 7 out of 10 bouts, no takedown. 7 out of 10 in the finals.
Wow.
That would never. And you're saying this is exciting? This is great? Huh? Now, the fans that are listening to this podcast are fans of wrestling. They can find reasons why this won't work, and they can say, I don't like it. And some people go, that's interesting, and think about it. But I don't care about their opinion. Those numbers are so small, they're diehards. I love them to death. This is not yelling at them or somehow demeaning them. I love them to death. They're going to show up and root for their team no matter what the hell the rules are. So you're not going to lose one fan out of this change. You're still going to have the same fans. They may not like it, but they'll get used to it in a very quick period of time. Coaches will not like this, but I'll tell you, they're so competitive. Within 13, 14 seconds of this becoming a rule, they'll adapt real quick because they'll go, oh, shit. If this is the rule, we got to coach to it. And they'll they'll bitch right up to the point where it's time to get in the wrestling room or the first dual meet, and all of a sudden they're on board 100% because they're champions, they're winners, they're achievers. They know how to achieve, and by damn, they're going to achieve. And they'll take whatever the rules are and they'll work with it. And I promise you, in 3 years, you triple the fans' numbers. You'll get the people coming in that we don't currently have, and they're the ones that are important. I don't care about the ones we have now because those numbers are so small, they're unimportant. The ones we don't have are the ones we've got to please and the ones we've got to get to show up.
Man. Wade, that's very, very outside the box, but definitely something to chew on. And we're not gonna have time to get into all your ideas today, but I think you probably have a bunch, and maybe we may have you on again. But before we move on, Kyle has been sitting there very patiently. I know he chimed in a couple times. But we got a little game he likes to play, and I'll let him take it away.
Wait, it's called Sweat It Out. 5 questions. Yeah, we're trying to make you sweat.
All right.
Here 5 questions. You ready to play? Number
I'm ready.
one.
Put me in, coach.
All right. Where did your college coach Bob wrestle in college?
Pittsburgh. He was a Panther.
Got it. Yep.
He was 4th his senior year.
See, I didn't know
You didn't have
that. Number 2, who was Clarion's most recent NCAA champion?
Angle. Mark Kurt Angle.
Nope, there's one after him. He's from Delaware.
Oh, 18-pounder. I can't think of his name, but I can see him. He's the best coach, one of the best coaches in Delaware right now. He's a 118-pounder.
You're right on all that. You tell me when you want me to give you the name.
Well, I'm 70 now, so things sometimes come in and leave.
It is Sheldon Thomas.
Sheldon.
Sheldon Thomas, yep.
I beat you.
No.
I get Sheldon in ahead of time.
Number 3, name the wrestler who placed third at the D2 NCAA championships and placed first at the D1 NCAA championships the same year.
Gary Barton, Don Roan, both of them.
Yeah, you could have done either of those, so you got it. Nice work. Number 4, who defeated Larry Owings at the 1971 NCAA championships in the finals?
Ooh, it's 71. Keller, one of the two Zip Zap twins, Dwayne and Daryl Keller.
Daryl Keller, you got it. And then number 5, what movie line is this from? I'm also just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her.
That was Notting Hill.
You got it.
That was Notting Hill.
You got it. I'm going to give you 4.5. I mean, you were good on that Clarion with Sheldon Thomas. You were right there, so half a point.
Yeah, I'll take 4.
You got 5.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sharp.
What year?
Sharp.
What year did they start? Were athletes allowed to win 4 NCAA titles?
1968.
71. 70. 70.
Allowed, let's see. Freshmen could compete in what year for the first time? 1968 or 1969?
70.
Was it 70? Okay. Close.
All right, Wade, we got one more little game we like to play. And this one's called Wins and Whoopings. So I want you to think back over the entirety of your career. Is there one win that stands out as really memorable? It can be like your best win or your favorite or a comeback or or revenge or whatever it is. But one win that stands out, and then one ass whooping, right? Everybody's got beat up and had their ass kicked once or twice. Is there one win and one loss that stand out over the span of any match you've ever wrestled? You can answer either one first.
Okay. The one that stands out, state high school championship my senior year. If you get someone who's a multimillionaire, what he remembers more than anything is the very first million that he made, because that tells him he's on the right track. If he continues to do the same thing over and over again, he'll get a second, third, fifth, $8 million. If the first one tells him he's got the formula, he has the work ethic, and he knows what he's doing. Okay. For me, my first big win was the state high school finals my senior year. I pinned a 2-time defending state champion who was clearly favored to win over me. I was a little skinny kid. I didn't go to states my junior year. I went to states my first time my senior year. And his name was John Chapman. And between the two of us, we had more pins between the two of us than all the other finalists in every other weight class combined. And there was bets going all over the place. That was the match of the evening. And the decision, most people come up with the idea that the match is going to last 6, and it didn't. But it was an incredible evening for me. I finished with I missed one guy my senior year. I pinned everybody except for one guy, and I think I have the record for the highest percentage of pins to wins, in a year. I don't know if anyone's pinned the whole way through, but whatever. That was my biggest win, because it told me that was my first $1 million. It told me I have the right stuff. And if you do that in OW in Pennsylvania, it's usually going to mean you're going to have a pretty good collegiate career too. So I was able to catapult that. And ass kicking, I really never took an ass kicking. There were some matches that I was really frustrated in, or the one sticks out in my mind, Wayne Wells. I wrestled Wayne for the Pan Am trials. I just graduated from high school. It was in the summer between my senior year and my freshman year, and I had Wells in the finals. The winner goes to the Pan Ams, loser goes home. And I was up 6-2, and I didn't take him down, but I almost did. He got into a quad pod. Back then, if your knees didn't touch the mat, it wasn't a takedown. And so I was trying to get him over, and I lowered my body, and he stepped over me and pinned me. And he stepped over, and I thought it was a grizzly bear on top of me. You know, he realized he was behind on points, and he squeezed, and I couldn't budge, and I got pinned. And I've been pinned twice in my life, and that was one of them. And that was the only one I was really pinned. The other time I rolled across my back and did it a little too slow. And there was nothing he did. I did it myself and got pinned. I went, all right. But Wayne was the only one that really stuck. But I had the match in my hand, and it was less than a minute to go, and I still. But that was probably my disappointment that I had a defending world champion on the ropes, and I was just coming out of my high school senior year, so I was doing well. But yeah, that was the one that bothered me. And winning states in high school, was the number one, because that was my first $1 million. Tells me I was doing the right thing, and I had skill to move on.
That's awesome, Wayne. Man, like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you for the last probably about an hour or so, and I know there's probably a million other topics we could have gotten into, and hopefully you can come back on and we can do this again, because I like the way your mind thinks. I like the way you're thinking about the sport and how to make it better, and definitely some outside of the box stuff. But I love hearing your ideas and your thoughts on the sport. Any parting words from you before we let you move on with your day?
No, that's pretty much it. You've got me exhausted here. I got myself exhausted. But I've written. I have my own blog, WadeSchalles.com, and I have a lot of these ideas listed. When I put them in there, and people respond to them, but they're creative, and I have a lot more that you're right that we could cover. So that if someone wants to go there and read a couple, they're certainly interesting, and you have to go in there with an open mind. And there's a lot that you won't like, but I want you to sit back and say, at the very least, he made me think. That's what I do in my writing, because I'm sure Kyle does very, very similar. Kyle, you are the best writer we have in Win. You do an excellent job. I turn to your column every day. When I get the magazine, you're the first page I turn to, whatever the hell Kyle's saying. It's well thought out, interesting topics. You do a great job. And what I try to do when I write, and I know Kyle does the same thing, at the end, I don't care if you agree or disagree with what I said, but I want you to say, I don't know if I like the son of a bitch what he had to say there, but he made me think. If I can make you think, then I've done my job as a writer. And so that's that. And I have one book out, and I have another book coming out of fiction. It's called Jacob's Cradle, and you can get it at Amazon. You can it's there, and everyone who's read my book and put a remark in Amazon, I get 5 stars. Everybody has given me a 5-star. It's about wrestling, about a love affair, about spy versus spy, CIA, and the Olympics, and in a competition down in Cerro Pelado in Cuba. It's very interesting, and it's 5 stars out of 5. And it's in Amazon. It's a quick read, and it's very good, called Jacob's Cradle. So there you go. I got my little plug in there.
Absolutely. Jacob's Cradle.
Yep.
We'll have to check it out. Well, sweet. Go ahead. You can say something?
Well, no. If you read it and you like it, please say something kind at Amazon. If you don't like it, lie to me and say something nice, kind at Amazon, please.
Hit that 5-star button. Wade, thanks so much for joining us, man. It really was. It was awesome conversations, and you definitely got me thinking. Whether I completely agreed with you or not, the hamster's running. So thanks for your insight. Thanks for your stories, and really enjoyed talking with you today.
And just remember, a point scored, earned, disappoint scored, is the same way every sport is. Why are we different? Why do the big sports do it that way, and why are they full, the stands, and why aren't we?
Sure. I'm going to chew on that one. I appreciate it, though. Wade, have a great day. Thanks so much, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again.
Have a nice day. Please stay well, guys.
Thank you so much. You too. All right, Kyle, man, he made you think?
Yeah, I mean, he did, but I'm just on board with it. So to me, I've thought that for years. I'd like to see it happen. And I know we're at the end of this, but we can dive into more of why I think it's so important to do that. But I'm on board with that.
All right. I'm gonna chew on it. I don't hate it, but there's a lot to think about and something that big. But yeah, we'll give it some time and thought maybe we'll have. I'd love to have Wade on again because I know he can take this 100 different directions and it'll be entertaining. So thanks so much everybody for tuning in. It was a fun show. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place for Kyle Klingman. I'm Mark Bader. We'll see you. Thanks.